We have guest Ryan Clark, former Pittsburgh Steeler, Washington football team. I don't know if he's going to
What
go
I
with the
played for wasn't
Commanders.
that.
Are let's start off with there. Are you going to wear Commanders t-shirts? Like if they send you some stuff, are you rocking the Commanders gear?
No, you know what's crazy, man, is I don't really wear any former team stuff. To be honest, I don't wear jerseys, in that way. Even when I go to my son's games, I just wear Lululemon or DB Precision. I'm not like one of those people. And the Washington Commanders really don't invite me back for anything. Not that
Oh,
I'd go to be honest, but I don't really have that connection to a city. I don't really have that connection to an organization like that. With Pittsburgh, it was the people. It's the family. You still love the Rooney family, which they were good to me both on and off the field. Obviously, Coach Tomlin is still there. I remember the people in the building so well. They treated me well. We all became close, and the organization treated them well. So I think Pittsburgh would be the obviously I want a ton there. Pittsburgh would be the place that I'm closest to. But even then, if they sent me a jersey, I probably wouldn't wear it either unless it had Troy Polamalu or one of my other teammates' name on it.
yeah. And Ryan, like I felt a connection to Ryan. One, the 2002 draft class. I think we had in my opinion, I think we had one of the best draft classes. You look at Julius Peppers, you look at Roy Williams, you look at Ed Reed.
Mm-hmm.
When everybody talks about the safety draft class of 2022, I think I'm not saying I'm one of the few, but not a lot of people realize Ryan Clark was in that class. I personally crossed paths with you because you were leaving Washington and I was coming, and I only stayed there a couple months. I ended up getting cut, but that's how I started to know about who Ryan Clark was from guys like Sean Taylor, from Santana Moss. And then as we got older now, I've watched you, I've admired what you've done. You motivate me to do more. And so my question to you, Ryan, is looking at that draft class, and you look at those safeties and you probably, you have more Super Bowls than Roy Williams. What do you say to an undrafted player right now coming out when you look at, other guys going ahead of them, and what are they going to have to do to stay on the team?
Well, what's so crazy is normally after every draft, I have two or three conversations like right after the draft with people who are undrafted.
Yep.
Whether it's they DM me in Twitter because I follow them because they play my position or they've known me throughout their career. And now some of those people are the few people that realize I'm undrafted. I was undrafted. Because a lot of times because you play for a long time, because you're on TV, people don't necessarily know. And I think I try to always tell them what my mindset was. And then I can't. At 22, I didn't understand this was my mindset, but looking back on it, I got it. I always believed I belonged, and inversely, I always behaved as if they felt like I didn't. That was my thought process. Anytime if you're on the field with a Ron Johnson, who was drafted, if you're playing against a Jeremy Shockey, who was the first round draft pick of my draft, you had to step on the field and stand across from those people as if you belonged out there, as if you did start 39 games at LSU, as if you were all SEC. And you had to step on the field that way, but you also had to know that every day people didn't believe you belonged there because if they thought you belonged there, one of these 32 teams and one of these 7 rounds would have drafted you. And so every day when you're sitting in the meeting and you outplay the draft pick, but no one says anything about your interceptions. No one says anything about you lining people up. No one says anything about your tackles or filling the lane. And then they do one thing and everybody in the room goes crazy. You got to realize that's because they don't think you belong there. And so every day was an interview for me. Every day I had to go out and prove it. And I felt that way for 13 years. I remember when I got to Washington, I was, old as dinosaur, pissed at that time. They were trying to put this plan in for me to sit out practices in camp. And I was like, I ain't sitting out no practices. I was like, I don't need a break. And that was just my mindset because I still felt like then I had to prove it, even though by that point I had proven to myself and to everyone else I belonged.
You know what? And you were leaving the Giants, now that I think about it, going to the Steelers, right?
No,
Yeah,
I went Giants to Washington.
and then Washington to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I knew it was something else in there because I'm like,
Mhm.
I knew there was a New York connection in there somehow.
Yep.
And so, Ryan, looking at this draft class, and I've equated this to the Ed Reed versus Roy Williams. You look at Kyle Hamilton versus Lewis Cine,
Hmm.
and everybody's questioning where somebody's drafted. Ed Reed was drafted after Roy Williams. Of
Yeah.
course, Roy had all the highlights. He had all the stuff, and then Ed had all the corners. He had the big class out of Miami that year. I think one of the, the most first rounders for one team or something like that. So when you look at Kyle Hamilton versus Lewis Cine coming to the Vikings, what are the Vikings getting in the Lewis Cine?
I think the Vikings, one, they get a player that from a run and hit standpoint is the best safety in this draft. I do believe Kyle had more ball production, right? Or in what disruptions, and you know what that is. That's
Yeah.
interceptions. That's turning the football over. I think Kyle had probably more wow plays than Lewis seen, but I still believe Lewis has more range. It doesn't mean he tracks the ball better or gets to the ball better. He has more range. He's a faster, more explosive player than Kyle is. We also have to keep this in mind, Ron. And I am Minnesota. I am not saying that Lewis Cine will be a better pro than Kyle Hamilton. Don't y'all start that after Ron plays this interview. But here's what I'll say, Ron. Think about the fact that Trayvon Walker was the first overall pick of the draft.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about his numbers. Well, man, it's easier to get to the bone when you're the biggest dog chasing it, right? If you
Okay.
played for Georgia, there was 11 of them out there, which is evident by 15 players from that school being drafted. And so I think Lewis Cine is going to be one of those players that actually has more production in the NFL than he did in college. And then if you watch him, and maybe it's the way I love the game to be played. Like he's like a real life killer.
Yeah.
In a day and age where targeting is huge in college or in NFL, unnecessary roughness is huge. This is a dude that seeks and destroys, and I think that's still of high value in football and in the NFL. Obviously, you have to do it within the rules, but I think he can do that. And so he's a extremely confident player. He was a high school All-American, huge recruit. Played from the time he stepped foot at Georgia. You know how hard that is, Ron. And
Yeah.
I think you got a true first round safety, a true plug and play guy based on the type of things he had to be able to digest, right, and then regurgitate at Georgia. And I think it's a good pick for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, when you look at the draft as a whole, and so we're going to take a look at the trades. This is Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's first year, Kevin O'Connell's first year as head coach. I know personally the Ravens would never trade with the Steelers. Like, I don't think they would be able to do it, mentally. I just think they would say, screw this. Somebody else has to want to trade with us. But the Vikings did it twice. They traded with the Lions and then the Packers. And so a lot of fans were pissed off. They didn't understand the purpose of helping the Packers out in the trade. You see it on the media. Everybody's saying the Vikings got fleeced. I heard it this morning on the way into work. Same thing. Everybody on talk radio, the Vikings got fleeced. I watched ESPN. Everybody, a lot of people are questioning that trade. In your opinion, because nobody's put pads on yet, do you see that as a big fail, or do you see that as possibly just a learning experience for Kwesi Adolfo?
I think it's a learning experience, but we also have to realize, even if he does have the last say in the room, those rooms are about conversations.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you hire people who are experienced and you hire people who have gone through drafts before, they're a part of those conversations. And I think that those conversations are less about who you're helping and how you're helping your team.
Yeah.
Or how you are putting your team in the negative or hurting your team. And I guess after having those conversations, they felt like those trades helped them more in the future than the player that the Green Bay Packers or the Detroit Lions would pick. And now, I think that's more of a, at least in my opinion, that's more of a feelings thing, right?
Yep.
And businesses can't run off feelings. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
the fans said, talk radio says it. Yeah, because we get into feelings. The fans feel everything, but they ain't paying no money for nothing.
Right.
Right? They ain't paying no money for these players. They're not the people in the draft rooms trying to draft them. And then on talk radio, hell, we just need topics. It's a great topic. You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't really truly have an answer. It's about subjectivity. And so, you know, I believe if it can help your class, you know, these are certain things that you do. If it can help your draft, if it can help your team. Watson from North Dakota State might be an amazing wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he may turn out to be Jordy Nelson. Right now, he's not. And you also don't get on the phone with the Packers and go, well, are you going to move up to take a wide receiver? And if so, what wide receiver is that? Because if it's the wide receiver that we want, we're not going to, you know, it's not how it works. And so they were going to find a way to move up anyway. Hopefully, if you're the Minnesota Vikings, you use that to, you know, get everything you possibly wanted from this draft. And I think when you get a guy like Andrew Booth, who, you know, I felt, you know, was a first round talent, where you do, that kind of equals out to me.